Welcome to the Alaska Weather Show. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan. On this Thursday evening, December 2nd, 2021, got a lot to talk about tonight. And if you'd like additional information, you can always go to weather.gov/Alaska. And if you have any questions or interesting observations or photos you'd like to share, you can reach me at peter.chan@noaa.gov. Looking at the weather headlines, we have a windy front that's moving in off the Bering that's going to produce snow and blowing snow along the west coast. We have blizzard warnings, winter weather advisories in effect. We'll highlight that in a moment. Big Arctic high pressure up around and just above 1,045 millibars is going to produce bitter cold across areas of the Arctic coast in through the northeast and eastern interior, especially along the Alcan border. Some areas could be down around 50 below, if not tonight into early Friday morning, certainly Friday night into early Saturday morning. We're also at the point now where we're at new moon. That means dark skies. And there is a coronal mass ejection. That's a disturbance from the sun that may give the Earth a side-swiping glance here as we go through this evening. So it could enhance aurora tonight where skies are clear, but it'll be bitterly cold for observing. And then we're looking at the potential for a widespread winter storm to impact the west and southwestern portions of the state Sunday into Monday. So looking at the webcam tour, we're looking at some of the FAA airport sites. Sitka has had some heavier snow showers during the day today, and they will gradually diminish as we head through mid and late evening. Further inland, Wrangell area did report some damaging winds on Tuesday, knocked down some trees, taking out power lines, which in turn caused some power outages. That was on November 30th. And since there's still some additional snow showers, winter weather advisory remains in effect for the Wrangell area, including Hyder as well through the day on Friday. And then looking off to the north and west, Teller there along the Western Seward Peninsula, there near Wales, we'll see blizzard conditions developing this evening and overnight. Winds could gust upwards to 60 miles an hour with falling snow and blowing snow. And then as we go farther east, new exit there on the northern Arctic coast, it's bitter cold. It was 40 below this morning, and we're going to see even some colder temperatures there in through the northeastern interior tonight and Friday night. Some of the normally cold spots could be down around 50 below, but at least skies will be clear and the potential to seeing some enhanced aurora dancing around in the dark skies. But looking at the current advisories and warnings, we still have that winter storm warning for the Sitka area, and then winter weather advisories that'll extend into Friday for Wrangell as well as down through Hyder. And then out to the west, we have quite a plethora of various blizzard warnings and advisories. Now, first I'll start with the wind chill warning up there along the Arctic coast, Prudhoe Bay, Katovik. We're looking for that to relax. Winds should die down here later this evening, so that will be allowed to probably expire for tonight. But then along the west coast, south of Point Hope, all the way down to west of Bethel, including Nunavik Island and St. Lawrence Island, we have blizzard warnings in effect as that front works its way eastward. Southeast to south winds ahead of it will gust 50 to 60 miles an hour, creating blizzard conditions. There will also be some falling snow, at least maybe 2 to 4 inches locally. A few spots could get a bit more than that, 5 or 6. So rather nasty conditions developing there for tonight, and especially lingering to the day Friday. We'll also see some of those snows and blowing snows making it inland, even to places like east of Kotzebue and maybe as far east as Ambler. But tonight, if you are interested in viewing the northern lights, there's the potential at least. One thing favoring it is new moon, so we'll have dark skies, but it will be bitter cold. Any areas that are clear will be well below zero. Well, there's the possibility of a minor geomagnetic storm as this coronal mass ejection just kind of brushes the Earth. It's not a definite, but certainly could cause the northern lights to perk up a bit here if you happen to be looking tonight. So looking at the satellite imagery, we have low pressure continuing to sit and spin out over the Gulf of Alaska, and that's what's keeping those snow showers going through portions of the Panhandle. Some of those have been heavier around Sitka and also around the Hyder and Wrangell areas. And if you look to the north skies, there is a deck of some mid and lower clouds across the interior, but the Arctic high pressure is building in from off of the Arctic Ocean into the north slope, and it will be sliding east-southeastward into the Yukon as we go into tomorrow. Out to the west, look at the bright enhanced cloud tops of that frontal system. Low pressure, strong low pressure located up there along the Russian coast, and arcing out ahead of it in through the western and pushing into the central Aleutians is that strong front. A lot of wind with it, so as that advances eastward with milder air, when we've had as much cold air in place across the mainland and the eastern Bering, whenever you get warm air come in, that means clouds and precipitation. You can see the low continuing to sit and spin there over the Gulf, and by morning we'll have a high pressure, big high pressure centered along the northeastern Alcan border there, upwards to 10,046 millibars, with some bitterly cold temperatures. But out to the west there, that occluded front is approaching the west coast, creating blizzard conditions, and we'll see those strong winds go from southeast and south, veering more west-southwesterly as we get into the day on Friday. That system, that front, will tend to weaken a bit and the winds start to relax later Friday into Friday night. Meanwhile, kind of a couple of lows there in the Gulf, nothing too terribly strong. And then by Saturday, a couple of lows remain in the western and southwestern Gulf, but just scattered snow showers along the coast. But as we go out to the west, there's a more powerful low out back toward off the Kamchatka Peninsula coastline there, with another powerful occluded front working its way through the Aleutians, and that'll be the next main weather maker to impact the state, especially Sunday into Monday, the west and southwest coast spreading into the west-southwest interiors. So low temperatures Friday morning will generally be below freezing throughout the region and throughout the Panhandle, and then back up through the interior of the South Central, 33 below at McGrath. We'll see lows Friday afternoon, I should say highs Friday afternoon, single digits all the way in Kenai, Anchorage, staying below zero, west side of the Alaska Range. May get a little bit above freezing there in the lower half of the Panhandle, including Craig and Ketchikan, mid-30s. Looking though, Saturday morning, very cold, 34 below at Glen Ellen, 37 below at McGrath. Some areas could be locally down around 40 below. Saturday afternoon temperatures should get back up above freezing along the outer and southern portion of the Panhandle, and single digits at least away from the coast along the Gulf of Alaska. Lows, though, for Friday morning are going to be well below zero. The areas like Fort Yukon and Arctic Village could easily be down around 40, 45 below. And then temperatures stay bitterly cold across east central areas, but come up along the west with that windy front. We'll see readings climb to maybe 10 to 15 degrees, western portion of the Seward Peninsula, lower Yukon Delta. And then as we get into Saturday morning, some temperatures, normally cold spots, could flirt with 50 below zero there around Fort Yukon and along the Alcan border. Temperatures not as cold along the west and northwest coast simply because of some wind and cloud cover. And then Saturday afternoon temperatures will moderate a bit there through the west, but stay cold east central areas along the Alcan border. And then we'll just await for the next system, the next storm, to arrive along the western coast as we head into Sunday. But Friday morning will be very cold across the southwest interior. Again, some areas could be below 30 below. Above freezing, though, along the Aleutian chain as that front works its way eastward and brings in some warmer air off the North Pacific. Temperatures Friday afternoon, lower 40s through the Aleutian chain, starting to moderate along the west coast, 28 at Makoriak. And then Saturday morning lows starting, the coldest air slowly starting to scour out there, the middle Yukon and upper portion of the Kuskokwim Basin. And then Saturday afternoon temperatures should get back up into the 20s, say west of Bethel there along the coast, Nunavik Island. And then also we'll see temperatures getting back up above freezing along the Alaska Peninsula, extending out into the Aleutians, especially as you get further west and southwest of King Salmon. So here's the temperature outlook for December 8th through the 12th. It's not going to be as cold as what we saw here through the latter half of November, or even what we're going to experience here in the interior tonight and tomorrow night. However, the cold air stays, below normal temperatures stay in place across south central areas. The more notable thing is, Even though temperatures may not be quite as bitterly cold, we're going to see more of an influx of moisture coming in off the Bering and at times being tapped into from the Gulf. So this could mean a couple of storm systems that could produce accumulating snows throughout the interior along the Yukon River, especially along and north of the Alaska Range. So you'll want to stay tuned to later forecast here as we head toward at least approach the middle portion of the month. It looks like we could be a little bit more of an active weather pattern.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
In the aviation weather outlook, if you are planning a flight Friday into Saturday, we continue to see IFR conditions lingering out along the intercoastal mountains of the Panhandle, and then an extensive area there through the eastern Bering, from the Bering Strait down into the west-southwest coast, associated with a windy frontal system that will be in the process of weakening as it works its way inland. Nevertheless, the two main weather features, though, that remain, we have low pressure in the Gulf. That'll become a little more ill-defined as we go through the weekend. And strong high-pressure center upwards around 1045 millibars by Friday morning, situated along the Alcan border into northwest Canada, producing bitter cold temperatures, especially across the northern and eastern interior. By Friday afternoon, still pockets of IFR there through the intercoastal mountains, the southern part of the Panhandle, and on up northwest there of Yakutat and through the eastern Copper River Basin. And then as we look to the west, widespread IFR conditions along that frontal boundary, along with windy conditions, blowing snow. And for Saturday morning, we see the IFR conditions expand inland up through the Yukon and Kuskokwim River Basins, up through the western arm of the Alaska Range. And as we go into Saturday afternoon, IFR conditions still lingering along the intercoastal mountains there of the Panhandle, and then out through the west from along the western half of the Alaska Range up through the lower Yukon Valley, and then out over the Bering, including St. Lawrence Island, southwest, where there's going to be another low pressure and frontal system with wind and precipitation. The snow is going to be spreading eastward, and we're going to be looking at the potential for a significant winter storm moving in off the Bering into the western and southwestern parts of the state as we head through Sunday into Monday. But in the meantime, Anaktuvuk Pass will enjoy VFR conditions, though bitterly cold conditions, as will Adigan Pass for Friday. Also, Lake Clark and Merrill will see VFR conditions in place, as we round out through the central and northern Alaska Range. Rainy, windy, and Isabel passes all VFR, as will Mentasta. And then further south and west, VFR conditions are expected on Friday, not only at Tanita, but also Portage Pass. And then finally, in through the northern Panhandle, Chilkoot and White should hold on to MVFR conditions on Friday. And looking at the freezing levels, the surface freezing level is just off of the southeast coast there between Craig and Haida Gwaii. It kind of zigzags out over the Gulf and then passes just south of the tip there of the Alaska Peninsula back out into the central Bering and along the Kamchatka coast, with a slight bump in freezing levels to near 4,000 feet through the eastern Aleutians associated with that frontal system working its way east. There's also the best potential for some icing along that frontal system Friday from the Russian coast through St. Lawrence Island, down through Nunavik Island, and then into the eastern Aleutians, pushing into the tip of the Alaska Peninsula between 8,000 and 16,000 feet. Farther north, though, 2,000 to 12,000 feet up there towards St. Lawrence Island. And then some pockets of isolated moderate turbulence between 3,000 and 8,000 feet there in the Panhandle. Upper level jet stream winds, we have troughiness that lingers aloft, but we have southwest flow onshore into British Columbia and Vancouver, upwards to 150 knot jet core, but more impressively to the west, we have 170 to 180 knot jet max core out there through the North Pacific and along the western half of the Aleutians that turns to the north-northwest. And then looking at 9,000 foot level, high pressure circulation there, eastern Brooks Range, eastern North Slope, low pressure circulation up there in the northeastern Gulf with onshore flow upwards to 55 knots, Haida Gwaii from the southwest there at 9,000 feet, but a core of anywhere from 60 to 80 knot winds out over the western and central Bering. and dropping down to 3,000 feet. Strongest winds coming onshore there in through the Seward Peninsula, the northwest coast, 50 to 70 knots from the southwest, veering westerly, and then a broad core of winds out over the Bering. And this translates to the threat of some isolated severe turbulence, especially around St. Lawrence Island up through the Bering Strait, western Seward Peninsula, on up toward the tip of the northwest coast, as well as along the eastern and central Aleutians between surface and 4,000 feet. So there's your flight weather. If you are heading out, certainly check the latest conditions and forecast and have a safe flight.
Trace here, Star Spotters, and this week Venus will be super bright, and here's why. Here are the skies at 6 p.m. this week. Venus is getting a little higher and brighter every day, peaking on Sunday, December 7th. It appears a tiny bit brighter because it's closer in its orbit to us. If you look at it with the right telescope, you'd see it as a crescent with a lot of sunlight bouncing off its clouds. The amount of light reflected is called albedo, and Venus reflects about 70% of the light that hits it. That's more than any other planet in our solar system. The moon's albedo means it reflects 10% of the light, but it's way closer, so it seems brighter. Astronomers use this information to learn more about planets here and far-flung in our galaxy. Of course, Venus's atmosphere is toxic, so if you slipped under, you'd find a taste of poison paradise. Keep looking up.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder, and joining me once again is Cindy Preller. She is the Tsunami Program Manager for the National Weather Service in Alaska region. Thanks for joining us again, Cindy.
Thank you, Dave.
We're talking about tsunami awareness and safety here in Alaska especially, and one of the things that has been one of your main focuses is the Tsunami Ready program. What is that, and how do Alaskans find out more?
Awesome. Yes, Tsunami Ready is a National Weather Service hosted program in partnership with Storm Ready.
Okay.
And it is a program that we conduct with our partners in the state, but it's mostly community driven. So if a community wants to become tsunami ready, well, the first thing they need to do is get a hold of me or their local WCM at a weather forecast office or their tsunami team at the state level.
So, and this is something that's a NOAA grant, so there's money available to help encourage the preparedness at the local level there in the city or the village.
Yeah.
What are some of the places that have done this already?
Oh, our oldest tsunami ready city is Seward,
Good.
you know, but also Sitka, Homer, Valdez are the, you know, the main players, but we've got several tsunami ready communities that I'm very proud of. It takes several years to accomplish this. And so a few of the things that they do is the tsunami risk will be assessed by someone like me or another scientist will help find out, you know, really what their probability is. We'll create an inundation map, an evacuation map. They'll have a mitigation plan. We will set up some partnerships with the schools, make an evacuation shelter, and then they need to practice. But it is the city that owns the program, really. It's up to them. And many cities would like to have sirens, and so we help them get those. And, you know, and they practice. They have to practice.
Sure. So let's say I'm driving into a place like Seward that's tsunami ready. What are some of the things I should look for as maybe a visitor so I know maybe where I need to go or can be more aware of my tsunami risk?
Absolutely. The tsunami ready signage is really blatant. It's this, you know, blue and white curling wave sign, and there's different shapes of signs that'll show you if you are in the hazard zone or where the evacuation routes are and when you're out of shelter.
Okay. So this is a multi-step process that helps the residents be more aware of their own risk, but then also prepare for when that risk arrives.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, many communities sound their sirens daily, some sound them weekly, you know, to make sure everybody knows what they mean. And there's often drills. We have an annual drill once a year. We have Tsunami Awareness Preparedness Week, and that's a good time for each community to do some exercising.
Okay. And is this a program that is unique to Alaska?
Absolutely not. It's national.
Okay.
And all over the country, you'll have the same signage, so it's consistent.
Good. So if I'm taking the kids to California, I should be able to see something familiar.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And, you know, some communities hesitate because they think it'll discourage tourism. And so I would like to tell those communities that what they're actually doing is they're encouraging responsibility.
Sure.
The tsunami's going to happen.
Right.
And it's going to hit every coastline. So, you know, it's not about when, it'll be any time. So the fact that they're showing tourists that they are making steps to be prepared for this, I think would encourage people to want to stay there.
Right. And that would be no different than, say, you or I visiting the Midwest, where we know there's going to be really bad thunderstorms and maybe there's a risk for tornadoes. We're aware of that risk when we go there.
Absolutely. If I see a sign for a tornado shelter, I'm going to remember that.
Right. Okay. All right. So we're just doing a better job of being more prepared with something that's bound to happen again.
I hope so.
Okay. Very good. Where can people go again to learn more about the Tsunami Ready program here in Alaska?
Well, one, there is a Tsunami Ready website. So, you know, just Tsunami Ready,
Google
and that'll
Tsunami
get you
Ready.
there.
Okay.
And then probably the best person for people to contact is their warning coordination meteorologist at their local weather forecast office, which is Anchorage or Juneau, most likely.
Okay. All right. So most of the folks along the Bering Sea coast, again, are not at a huge risk for tsunamis at this
No,
point.
they don't need to worry about it.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good. But always learning to be prepared no matter where you are in Alaska, no matter what the risk, always a good step. And tsunami is a major player in that, as we well know from events like 1964.
Alaskans are resilient. I really believe in them.
Very good, very good. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for joining us again. And please make an effort to learn more about the Tsunami Ready program in your village and town if you haven't already. We'll be back with Cindy again next time to talk more about the Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, Alaska. We actually have a group of geologists working for the National Weather Service. So scratch your head on that one and we'll join you next time. See you next time on Alaska Weather Packs.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back, and taking a look at today's sea ice edge. Ice is extensive across the Arctic and Northwest coast, extending down through the lower Chukchi Sea in the Bering Strait. But we are going to have some windier conditions coming on in with a strong frontal system. And the ice is rather extensive through the eastern Bering from the east side of St. Lawrence Island, including in and around Nunavik Island through the southwest coast, as well as some areas of ice up through Cook Inlet and along areas of the Alaska Peninsula. But a strong frontal system will produce southeast and south winds that'll veer to the southwest and west. So this will cause some northward ice, I should say northward and maybe slightly westward ice movement here over the next day or so. And then another more powerful system could impact especially west and southwestern coastlines as we go into Sunday and Monday of next week. So the marine forecast for Friday, we are looking for winds in the northern portion of the inner canals out of the north with gusts as high as 45 knots in Lynn Canal with waves 6 feet there. Otherwise, southwest winds south of Sitka on the outer coast 20 to 25 knots, waves 12 to 13 feet. Offshore flow, colder air there, Yakutat, 25 knots, 10-foot waves. Saturday, look for generally north winds continuing across the inner waterways, with the exception of down toward Metlakatla, where they still could be southeast about 10 knots. Otherwise, onshore flow south of Gustavus from the west, 15 to 20 knots, waves 5 to 8 feet, and then easterly flow Yakutat westward toward Cordova. Now, on the backside of low pressure, we're going to see winds out of the north-northeast along the Kenai, including Prince William Sound and the Cook Inlet. And we could see some gusts in Prince William Sound to 30 knots, waves 4 feet. Still northwesterly flow there at the mouth of Cook Inlet to north of Kodiak Island, 30 knots with 10-foot waves. Saturday, winds will come down further. Still weak low-pressure circulation out over the Gulf will keep winds mainly out of the northeast and north, around 10 knots in upper Cook Inlet and Prince William Sound with waves just a couple of feet, and then more north to northwest there at the mouth of Cook Inlet and off the Kenai, east of Kodiak to 20 knots with waves 4 to 5 feet. For Kodiak Island on Friday, winds will be northwesterly around 20 knots, waves 5 to 6 feet. That approaching frontal system, though, We'll shift winds around from the southwest to west there as we get out toward the end of the Alaska Peninsula at 25 knots. Strongest winds will be at least bypassing the area further up through the central and northeastern Bering. But otherwise, winds should generally be out of the northwest on Saturday. 15 to 20 knots, waves 3 to 6 feet around Kodiak Island, and still maybe as high as 13 feet there north of Cold Bay. Across the Aleutians on Friday, in the wake of that frontal system pushing eastward, winds will generally shift to the west 25 to 30 knots. Waves generally in the eastern half of the Aleutians, either the Bering or North Pacific, will be in the 10 to 15 foot range, but could still be up near and a bit over 20 feet west of Adak. And going into Saturday, the eastern Aleutians winds have come down a bit, but will be picking up rather quickly again. Above 40 to near 50 knots as we go through Saturday afternoon from the south, especially once you get west of Nikolsky and through Adak and Kiska, with waves building back up near 20 feet west of Adak. And then looking along the coast, the strongest winds pushing up through the central and in Bering southwest there of St. Lawrence Island. But over the ice, we're looking at 35 to 45 knot gales from the southeast that'll be veering to the south and then southwest. And waves in the vicinity of St. Matthew could build to 25 feet. Saturday, look for winds to be generally south-southwest around 25 to near 30 knots in open water. St. Matthew, St. Paul, St. George, waves running around 15 to 7 feet. Along the Arctic coast, winds east-southeast 20 to 30 knots, picking up to as high as 50-knot storm force winds in the lower Chukchi Sea, especially west of Kotzebue Sound and north of the Strait. Likely some ice movement with that. And then Saturday, winds do come down but continue east-southeast along the Arctic coast, and from the south-southeast 25 to as much as 35 knots lower Chukchi Sea with ice in place, but waves could be as high as 8 feet in the vicinity of the north side of St. Lawrence Island. So that's all the time I have for tonight's show. Certainly thank you for watching. It's going to be interesting few days here as we at least get in a little stormier pattern, especially in the west.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.